So for a couple years now, Zelda fans have wondered and speculated if The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword would be coming as an HD port to the Nintendo Switch. The game has been begged for by fans, teased by Nintendo, and predicted by many to be coming to the Switch at some point. The game is in desperate need of a fresh coat of paint. The game received a lot of criticisms for its motion controls and how they didn't work as well as they should have. The Switch could fix this issue as the Joy-Con motion controls are much better than the Wii motion controls. If we follow along with history, to me it's pretty obvious that we will get Skyward Sword at some point on the Nintendo Switch. Nintendo has set precedents for teasing a new Zelda game in some form and then dropping that game sometime later. Specifically, Eiji Aonuma has been known to do this. Let's take a look at Aonuma's history with teasing upcoming Zelda games. When talking about Link's Awakening, Aonuma said, "When we were thinking about this game, we always wanted to incorporate something where the player could do something kind of arranging in their own, and what came up with the dungeon arranging," Aonuma says. Link's Awakening is a perfect fit for that, especially with the dungeons, so we wanted to incorporate that with this new reimagined game. When he was asked about any other remakes plans, he said, "Currently I don't have plans, but there is a title that we can incorporate new elements or new features that is perhaps a perfect fit for a remake, then maybe we'll consider it," he says. When asked about porting the Skyward Sword to the Switch without motion controls, he said, "So you're saying control it with all the buttons? That's a little hard. I think it might be close to impossible." During a concert performance at Nintendo Live in Japan, Eiji Aonuma went on stage and said, "I know what you're waiting for. Skyward Sword for Switch, right?" Nintendo then clarified this statement to Eurogamer saying, "At this time we have no plans to release The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword on the Nintendo Switch." This could either mean that they actually don't plan to release the game, and this was a cleanup for a joke Aonuma made, but the more likely scenario is that they had to say this because the game wasn't ready to be announced. If you recall, Aonuma said this just before the Game Awards in 2018, which caused the internet to go into a frenzy thinking Nintendo was going to announce this port at the Game Awards. So the likely scenario is that Nintendo did this so people wouldn't be disappointed when it wasn't announced at the award show. This does not mean the game isn't coming. Eiji Aonuma is notorious for teasing upcoming remakes he's working on at the time. Back before Link's Awakening was announced, he teased Link's Awakening years prior. In an interview with Edge, Aonuma revealed that Nintendo has actually told him to make a new IP, but at the same time they want him to continue with Zelda. His statement was, "Actually, Nintendo has been telling me to create a new IP, but then they're also telling me to make more Zelda games. I can't really share much. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say anything, but I really like this idea of a game where you can live as a thief. That's all I can say." This foreshadows how in Link's Awakening, you can be a thief and end up being called thief for the rest of the game. 3 years later, Link's Awakening on the Switch was released. Aonuma always seems to do this with upcoming Zelda games, at least for the remakes. In a Facebook Q&A, Aonuma responded when asked about Majora's Mask 3DS, "I see how many of you have been asking about a remake for Majora's Mask on the Nintendo 3DS. It's nice to see such a strong response to this title, and we haven't forgot about Link's adventures in that world. If you play A Link Between Worlds, you may better understand what I mean by that." After this, Aonuma denied Majora's Mask 3DS was being worked on, which, not long after that, the game was announced. This matters because it shows that Nintendo and Aonuma will deny rumors every time until they are ready to announce the game. Eurogamer, who was the first to correctly predict the Switch, seemed to be under the impression that Nintendo was interested in releasing a new Zelda game every year. This follows a trend of a new Zelda game every single year in some form since all the way back in 2013. Why does this matter? Well, we know that Breath of the Wild 2 is on the way, but we haven't heard anything about it this year, and we are running out of time for them to announce it for 2020. There are really only a few options: releasing Breath of the Wild 2 this year, releasing a mainline series game, or releasing an HD port of a different game. Let's take a look at all of these options. We have already noted that Breath of the Wild 2 would be hard to do this year. We don't have much time left for an announcement, and there have long been rumors that Breath of the Wild 2 is a 2021 game. 2021 would put a sequel 4 years after the original game's release. This seems to fit more within the Zelda release timeline. Next is a new mainline Zelda game. This one seems to be the least likely. It doesn't seem like Nintendo would release a new Zelda game, even a 2D version, just a year before a big mainline series game is being released. All mainline series games have been years between them, allowing them to not be overshadowed. The last option is giving a Zelda game a remaster port for the Switch. That leaves the most likely games to be ported to the Switch are Skyward Sword or Wind Waker and Twilight Princess from the Wii U. The Wii U ports would be easier for the Switch to make, but would likely be met with less hype as they have already been ported once. Skyward Sword is totally in need of an update. It is one of the only Zelda games not on a modern console. So if we do get a new Zelda game this year, which based on Nintendo's history with Zelda games is very likely, then the most likely to me is the Skyward Sword HD port. It is the perfect timing and the perfect game for a Switch port. We know Nintendo loves to port over games with a fresh coat of paint and some quality of life improvements. What do you think? Do you think we'll see Skyward Sword on the Nintendo Switch this year? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, guys. Keep the legend going.